when I started medicine, being there, feeling like I was walking in towards that purpose. But as I do medicine and do dermatology and, run my clinic as a result of that, I very much feel like I am actually in my purpose.
For me, the opportunity to constantly grow and ask questions and learn something new is, I think, one of the best parts of doing something outside medicine.
I have colleagues who have created books which can be textbooks for students. There's a term we use, de-colonize medicine.
Did you feel confident starting Dr. Eve Skin?
Not at all. No.
Why? Well, you're so good at it and so passionate.
I wanted to be an example because I knew where I was coming from. So I come from South London, from a single parent home where, you don't have many role models around you. There's no one in my family that's a doctor before. And I wanted to have an impact.
Hi, I'm Chinwe. This is a podcast where we dive into the inspiring journeys of ordinary women who dare to break free from traditional career norms, defying social expectations to follow their passions towards a meaningful purpose. In a world often captivated by the glitz and glamour of celebrity stories and achievements, it is essential to recognize the quieter yet equally powerful stories that unfold in the lives of everyday women. And so my guests on this podcast are women who reflect the realities of your own daily lives and whose transformations will truly resonate with you. So be prepared to be inspired, because you will be reminded that the things you are naturally passionate about could be your calling, and that we can all experience greater happiness and freedom in our daily lives when we allow our passion to lead us to a purpose. This is Beyond 9 to 5.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Okay, so you guys can tell I am super excited today. I'm barely able to concentrate, to be honest, because today I have the most exciting guest, honestly. So I'm excited for you to meet her. So basically, after her GP training in the West Midlands, she moved to London and started her own clinic, a very popular clinic for that matter, focusing especially on extending aesthetics and dermatology care to people of different skin types and colors, right? So we know there's a bit of a challenge there. If you are a person of color, it's really difficult to access the right level of expertise that you need. And she also is a mentor, and she mentors upcoming medical students and doctors. And amidst all of this, running her own clinic, she is a mom of two beautiful, adorable girls, right? And I know this because I've met them. In our chat today, I hope I can explore with her around her sort of non-conventional career path in medicine, and a bit about her plans to expand her clinic. And of course, we'll get some beauty and skin tips while we're at it, right? Because, that's what we do. So let me welcome your ordinary woman next door, who is channeling her passion and expertise in skincare to help her patients maintain a healthy self-image and regain their self-confidence. Please welcome Dr. Yvonne Abimbola, also known as Dr. Eve Skin.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, so, and a bit of an Instagram sensation, aren't you?
I think so. I'm not sure.
So I know this because I remember when we were looking at approaching specialists for HealthMary app, and my business partner's daughter was asked to kind of browse around and see who it was. So she came up with a list of people that she really wanted us to, get on the app, and she was beyond excited. You have to get Dr. Eve Skin, mommy, on HealthMary app. And I was like, okay. And then when I said to her, well, I kind of know her, she was like, you know Dr. Eve Skin.
Oh, wow. That's...
So you're quite popular.
Thank you. I find it really weird when people say that, because I honestly don't feel like I'm doing anything crazy. I have recently had a lot of people say that they found me on TikTok, and I'm like, I have 5 videos on TikTok. That I don't think that's enough to draw a crowd, but somehow it seems to be having some traction. So I'm really pleased that you invited me to the app and that your daughter likes my content.
She does. It's the originality of it. Because they know you come from a place of real expertise, right? You've had your training, you just speak like you were their friend, or, telling them exactly what not to do. One of my favorite videos of that you put online is the one about Kim Kardashian, like do not go.
So I like to react because in real life I react all the time.
Yes.
And I thought, you know what, let me just watch this video, because people kept sending it to me in my DMs, and I thought, let me watch this video and then react to it. So you see my real reaction where Kim K is, showing us around her home, which is very beautiful. And then she shows us her personal sunbed, and that's just like, no. And, we are really trying to kind of advise, especially young people, and not just young people, anyone, not to use sunbeds, because they're just associated with skin cancer extremely. Yeah. There's a strong link. Even in countries like Australia, it's been banned.
Really?
But in the UK, and I think in America, it's still, something people just go and do. So trying to address that is really, really important, because obviously she has a massive influence.
She has a following.
So, so that is not really the right kind of message to be putting out there. And I think she kind of did go back on it and say, maybe I shouldn't be putting this out there. But it was
really interesting. Yeah. And I thought, okay, I see why my girl, because I've got an 18-year-old daughter as well, and I see why they love and follow you. But I kind of need to rewind, right? Tell me, who is Dr. Yvonne Abimbola?
Oh gosh.
How long have we got?
I think there's just so many parts of me. And I think that's the one thing that I'll probably say. Yes, I'm a doctor. Yes, I'm a wife. I'm also a mother. But I just feel, I don't want to call myself a free spirit, but I'm someone that just likes to follow my passion. I'm very much someone that doesn't like to leave any skill behind. I know that sounds really weird, but I think I knew I grew up with lots and lots of different kind of gifts and abilities. Yeah. And the only thing that initially stopped me from even doing this business earlier was fear. Yeah. But I'm now, I can say I'm a bit more courageous.
Yes.
And I am more excited and definitely driven. But yeah, I'm also fun. I love lots of other things outside medicine. So I'm not just a doctor, if that's probably the easiest way to describe it. Yeah. I'm definitely a person that loves medicine, that loves skin, but I love so many other things as well.
Basically, the whole point of this podcast is about finding what it is you're passionate about and funneling it towards a purpose, right? Yeah. And I think soon as I moved on from the NHS in November, it feels like I've met more kindred spirits in that sense, female doctors who are in fact doing other things, really, really powerful, impactful things that, it's amazing. I think it's really, really cool. Yeah,
there's so many of us out there that we are so gifted. And that doesn't mean anyone in any other profession isn't, but we really do have so many skills. And sometimes we're kind of stifled in our careers, not able to kind of express them. And yes, you learn these skills while you're working, but actually when you kind of go off on your own, you can express them even more. Yeah. You can really hone on, an area that you love and that you are passionate about. And yes, like you said, I find so many women like yourselves and like some of the women we meet at, these meetings that you just think, wow, you're a superpower. Like you really have so many gifts, so many skills. And I think that's certainly something that you can do outside of the constraints of, your 9 to 5 or your corporate environment. And yes, the NHS is great, but I think there's much more to me than what I can do in that sphere.
The NHS can't do everything for everybody. It's, I think sometimes we lean on it so much as a country, as a community, that we forget that there are other ways to make impact. There are other ways to access, health, skincare, nutrition. There are other ways out there to access healthcare. I know that you trained in the West Midlands.
Yeah.
Tell me, how did you, how did that go?
So when I was in medical school and you finish your final year of medical school, you have to apply for training. So I applied for training and I only wanted to be in London. I was trained in London. I lived in London. I didn't see anywhere outside the M25. It does not exist. So when I applied and I did not get a job, everyone who did not get a job in London who applied was flung to the West Midlands. Yeah. So I won't lie, I did not go voluntarily. I honestly did not. I did not even know where I was going. I had to Google it because it was a little town that I had never heard of. And unfortunately, it was also a hospital that had a reputation at the time, which wasn't positive. So, I cried a lot of tears. I literally went kicking and screaming. I actually tried to go by myself. So,
Really?
when you do your first day induction, I think it's like Black Wednesday or whatever they call it. I drove up. I was going to drive up, but my mum forced her way into my car.
Oh.
She said she wasn't going to let me go by myself. So I went there. I was already upset, literally crying as I left London. And I had this kind of scenic tour out of London for some reason. I don't know what my sat-nav was doing. Landed in the West Midlands at night time in a little town called Stafford. And literally my car just made it. Really? So I was there for a year. It was very small. But it was actually a really good time. I made some really good friends there. Yeah. And then I moved on to Birmingham, which was kind of more like London, had a little bit more of a vibe, which I enjoyed, but it still wasn't home. Yeah. And then I kind of was resigned to the fact that I was never coming home. Yeah. Honestly.
I love the way you're saying coming home, as if you were on the other side of the world.
Honestly, I think it's like Americans. If you live in London, it's almost like there's nowhere outside.
It's
literally the whole world. Everything is here. So the idea of leaving is not really on the cards. So when I kind of had that resignation that I might just have to stay in the West Midlands, I was just kind of getting to grips with it. But then this course came up, which they were kind of floating an idea about, which was, it doesn't even exist anymore. It's something called broad-based training. And it just offered this ability to do 2 years outside of normal training of additional, training in medicine, psychiatry, pediatrics, and general practice. So it gave me some time to decide what I wanted to do. Yeah. And if I go back to what I said earlier, when you have loads of interests and lots of skills, sometimes that can be a problem. Yeah. So you don't actually know what direction to go to. And I also was like one of these people that kind of wanted to be told what to do because I just didn't want to make a mistake. So almost, at least if someone else says do it, then it's not my fault, it's theirs. So
it's just easier,
isn't it? So I applied for the course, and then when I applied, I realized actually I only want one of 8 places in the country. If it's not there, so basically if it wasn't Kent or Surrey, I'm not interested. So I don't know why. I applied anyway. I even remember going to the interview, which was, I think, in the north. So I even went further up north to London, of England. And I remember going to this interview. Other people had already got their jobs. I hadn't heard my jobs yet. I was still applying. This was a long process. Had to do lots of exams. And on the train, I remember thinking, I am about to fail. Like, I have no firm offer of a job, and I'm applying, and there are thousands of people, and there were so many people at this interview. What am I even doing here? So I do remember thinking, I'm just going to do the interview, but I literally, again, wanted to cry. And I'm not normally very emotional, but I just remember thinking, this is like
high pressure.
It's so much pressure. And you really just you have to make a decision. Yeah. And I honestly felt like backed into a corner about what kind of career I was going to go into. Yeah. So long story short, I got a place. I got a place in one of the 8.
One of 8.
Yeah. Wow. And actually the main place I wanted to be was the one I got the job for. Okay. So I remember thinking, wow. Okay. Yeah. And I got my job in Kent. So I moved back down towards London, and I was honestly...
Kent was close enough
Kent
to
was
London.
Close enough. Literally, it was close enough. I could commute from my mum's house if I had to. So I was like, this is really going to make sense. And then I've just stayed here. And then I essentially did the broad-based training program, which was for a period of 2 years, and then had the option of choosing where I wanted to go. Yeah. So I could then decide with a kind of a clear head and experience of each of the 4 jobs, actually, do you want to walk into medicine? Do you want to walk into general practice or pediatrics or whatever? And I chose at the time, again, another difficult decision.
Really
time.
difficult.
Yeah. I did choose general practice, but actually I had a massive dilemma about whether or not to go into medicine, because I had now whittled it down to being a generalist.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I think you then found skincare, dermatology.
Yeah, the way I found myself into dermatology, again, was not standard. So I had the option of going in straight into medicine or, other paths. I actually chose general practice when my medical consultant was extremely upset with me and really, really wanted me to choose medicine. Yeah,
exactly.
Literally, are you sure? But in a way, sometimes I think if I had gone through medicine, I might never have made it to dermatology because I was thinking about doing acute medicine, which again is basically house. Lots of thinking, lots of, diagnostics. But because I chose general practice, because I decided I am a generalist, and that's the most general specialty that existed outside of, maybe a general medicine, which is still you need to specialize in. While I was there, I realized there's so much dermatology. And the irony is, if I thought back to medical school, when I did my dermatology placement, I loved it.
You loved it, yeah.
I loved it. I did see my consultant going, it's that. And I remember thinking, whoa, that's so cool.
That rash is like XYZ.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa.
But I think the problem is that we had such a short time of training, literally like 2 weeks of dermatology.
So it was more like a taster, isn't it? So you didn't really get into it in
You
med
didn't.
school.
And I think people just kind of felt it was a bit of a holiday in terms of placements. So you didn't really get the bulk of it. And I think if I had, maybe I would have thought about that later. But it's fine, because I don't think anything was wasted in terms of my journey into it. But when I was in general practice, I realized that dermatology takes a huge chunk of our time.
It does.
And, the quoted data is that it's like 20% of all consultations. I would beg to differ. I would say it's at least 50%, because it comes up in everything. So whether it be medication-related drug rashes or infectious disease or whatever the case might be. So as I was doing general practice, I just remember thinking, I love seeing the skin problems. Send it to me. So I decided to do an extra diploma. And again, when I did the diploma, it was like fun. I know it sounds so weird, but it was like a day out every time I went to lectures. I remember going like literally skipping to the university and like sitting through lectures and like gobbling everything up, really excited, doing my dissertations and just finding it was so much fun.
Is that passion?
Yeah.
Or is that just, so this is what I wanted to kind of try and tease out from our conversation today. How do you know you're passionate about something as opposed to just, you like it because it's a trend or it's a bit of a fad and you're not going to forget about it in a week's or 2 weeks time? Yeah,
I think the difference is definitely you can feel it inside. You wake up excited to do something. A great example is if you look at my computer, I have literally got about 60 tabs open of different case reports, journal articles, all related to dermatology. I am constantly learning. In fact, my appraiser has told me off because I do so much dermatology. They're like, you need to remember you can do general medicine, not just dermatology. And I think that's the thing. Like, I go out of my way to increase my knowledge. I go out of my way to do additional courses. And I am driven because I love it and I want to improve my knowledge in it. No one's forcing me. No one ever kind of encouraged me. I had to pay to do my diploma. So it's not like I was given money to go and do it. It's definitely something driving me and it's internal and it's a passion. So it's not something that, I think, oh gosh, I've got to do this again. And again, even when I run my clinic, I can work all day without eating because I'm so happy. Like I'm driven by seeing patients. It's not great. I might live on 2 coffees, but I will be so excited about seeing, my patients and just each case is interesting. Oh yeah, this is cool. Oh, this caused that. And it sounds really, geeky, but I really, really enjoy that.
And so how do you then formulate that into purpose? Because again, what I'm hoping that a lot of women, a lot of people listening to this podcast is, yes, we can be passionate about something, but then how do you know this is your purpose and this is the vehicle that is going to help you direct that passion towards something? Yeah,
I think that's always a tricky question. When I started medicine, going into medicine was very much something that was new to my family. It's not something that anyone has done. But I remember being there, feeling like I was walking in towards that purpose. But as I do medicine and do dermatology and, you know, run my clinic as a result of that, I very much feel like I am actually in my purpose. You know, especially when you come across some cases and you know that if it wasn't you that saw that person, they would got this diagnosis.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
or their journey would have been much harder.
harder.
You just know it. Yeah.
You know, this is not to blow my own horn, but patients will call me and say, oh my God, Thank you so much. Like you know, I had a patient who I saw recently in my clinic who has had a skin condition for 2 years. She's actually seen dermatology already. She saw dermatology. She's been to a GP. She's been treated for various things. I saw her, I took the story, you know, and obviously there's a bit of cultural context as well. And I put it all together and I said, this is the diagnosis. She said, oh my gosh, how comes you got it? I'm so glad I saw you. And, you know, those things really, you know, they cut deep. I don't need to have it anywhere else, but it really sits with me that actually, no, I'm supposed to be here. And I would say that in terms of walking my purpose, before I even got to the clinic, during the pandemic, there were a few, you know, obviously everything shut down. And I had some colleagues who are doctors who said, look, Yvonne, could you please give some advice to this parent? Their child's skin is so bad. And, you know, and I just had a baby. I'm on maternity leave, but I saw the skin and I thought, God, I can't leave this child suffering like this. So let me give some advice. And honestly, they were so grateful. And I remember, like, literally, it sounds so cliche, but literally a warm feeling inside. And, you
warm,
know,
fuzzy feeling.
I know, and you just feel like, I was supposed to do this. Like, you know, I'm supposed to be able to help people like this. So, you know, that kind of spurred me on to decide, okay, I think I need to set this clinic up and can't just keep sitting on it, because it had been inside.
Because you'd been thinking about doing it
a long time.
Well, why didn't you want to do it within your current setting, within your NHS practice? Why did you want to do it outside of that?
I think there's always lots of issues. So there's like conflicts of interest, you know, don't really want to advertise your services where you work.
True.
But also I wanted to be based where I know a lot of the people need me. So, you know, the obvious choice is to go to like Harley Street or, you know, somewhere in London to, you know, open up a very swanky office. And I'd love to have that. But my demographic specifically, and my demographic is everyone, but specifically the people that keep getting missed or not diagnosed properly are people of colour, people of, you know, ethnic backgrounds. They tend to be based in, you know, the inner East city, London, east, south, west London, east and south, not west London. And so I thought, let me go back to where I was raised, South London. Let me open a clinic there. So I laugh all the time because my house where I was raised is round the corner.
No way.
It's literally round the corner.
Oh,
so it literally feels like coming home.
Fantastic story.
Yeah, it feels like coming home. Sometimes I talk to patients and, you know, they're all from all backgrounds, but I'm like, oh yeah, I went to school around the corner, you know, and actually I went to whatever. And they're really like, oh, she's like a local girl. She's come to help us. So, you know, and again, people are really pleased that someone's here and they don't have to go very far to find me, which is really good.
All right, so I have been, I don't want to be controversial or anything, but no, seriously, but I'll tell you a story. So when I got my first pediatric job, obviously fresh out of, you know, house job and all of that, I was posted to a hospital, and at handover, one of my more senior colleagues at the time said that they couldn't put a cannula into this patient who was dark skinned, and they had tried to insert the cannula. So for those of you who don't know what a cannula is, this is what that sort of plastic needle that we put into your veins to give you fluids and all of that. And they couldn't do it because her skin was too thick. And that's why they couldn't get through, right? And I remember at the handover thinking, okay, so I missed a lecture in medical school. Like that, do you see what I mean? And I kid you not, I researched it. I went to the library to read around, is our
Dark
skin, because
thick.
Is it darker? Is it thicker? Is that true? No, of course not.
No. And
that really shook my confidence in my whole life. I was like, what the? No, but that's not why... Yeah,
it's usually laziness, and I think it's also the way often the people that do blood taking or phlebotomy are trained. So they're often trained to look for blue veins.
Yes,
you will not see blue veins if you're very dark skinned. You know, instead of learning how to feel for veins, you know, and then appropriately putting a cannula in. So, you know, we've been patients before. I've been a patient, you've been a patient. And especially when you're pregnant and you go to have your regular blood tests, there's always a sense of dread, like, oh gosh, is this person going to be able to do it? And I know my veins are huge. Sometimes I feel like giving me the cannula, I'll do it myself. Yeah. But then you'll still get someone who's like, oh, I can't find a vein. And I'm like, it's right there.
It's right there. Yeah.
It's right there. I can help you if you want. Yeah. And I think that's just a training issue. Yeah. I'd like to say that since the pandemic and everything that happened with, COVID. Related to George Floyd and the rest, and the awareness of how, people of colour might be experiencing healthcare, things have improved, but it's massively. It's definitely massively improved. Yeah. I have colleagues who have created books, which can be textbooks for students to help improve their knowledge. Yeah. And that's really, really helpful. And I think there's a term we use, de-colonize medicine, so that you can have an approach that makes sense for everyone.
For you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So things like that shouldn't really occur. But unfortunately, yes, people still complain about that, trying to have a blood test. And yes, some people are difficult to take blood, even whether they're black, white or green. Yeah. They're still difficult to take blood from. But if you're looking, you'll not see.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really interesting thing because things have moved along quite a bit. But I think one big difference is that we are now talking about it as well. We as a community, we've chosen to be part of the solution, not just sitting and thinking, something needs to be different. Yeah. And so people like you advocating for this in your field is absolutely smashing, right? Yeah. It is absolutely amazing. When you decided to go ahead and open Dr. Eve Skin Clinic, can I just ask you first, why Dr. Eve Skin? Where did that name come from? Because I'm thinking, is it because it goes with Yvonne?
Well, so Yvonne is my name, but lots of people short my name to Eve. So, really? So it's very common for people to go, hi, Dr. Eve, and I'm like, yeah, sure, that's fine. I haven't got a problem with being called Dr. Eve because it is me. And I just thought Dr. Eve Skin just makes sense. Yeah. But then the problem with that is that I deal with everything, not just skin, like hair, nails, whatever. Yeah. So when people ask you, do you deal with nails? I'm like, yes. Anything that's related to dermatology, I can deal with. But that's really the reason why I called it that. Yeah. Just to kind of put my name on it. Yeah. So although I could call it Dr. Yvonne, I just think it's easier to just...
I love Dr. Eve's thing. I love it. Totally. I love it. So none of us ever gets any business training in medical school, isn't it? So how's that going for you running your own clinic?
God, I have learned
we could spend all day on this, guys.
It's actually bad. Like seriously, especially as medics, lots of us are going into maybe business or various other ventures. Yeah. But the business side is so hard and it's like lots of reading. Yeah. Again, the amount of knowledge I've had to amass, even for social media. My first reel was by accident. Like literally, I didn't even know I had made a reel until I realized, oh, is that what that thing is? But I honestly didn't know how to do it. So now when I look back and I'm thinking, wow, I've made all these reels in that time. It was a difficult thing to do. But the business side, accountants, renting places, managing people,
your own HR and all of that.
Everything is so hard. Yeah. But again, I feel like anything that's worth doing, you just have to sit down and learn how to do it.
For me, the opportunity to constantly grow and ask questions and learn something new is, I think, one of the best parts of doing something outside medicine. Yeah. Obviously, even as a doctor, you have to constantly learn and grow, in that sector. But actually doing something else altogether is so stimulating. I'm enjoying living a double life. Yeah,
you feel like you're living multiple lives,
Yes, yeah.
It definitely is a form of CPD, a continuing professional development, because you're developing new skills all the time. Yeah. And actually, sometimes even the skills that I've done privately for my business, I apply them in other places. Yeah. I apply them in any NHS work that I do. I think, actually, have you considered doing this? And they'll be, how did you think of that? Because I've had to flex that muscle that I've learned or that I've been building somewhere else. Yeah. So,
I learned a lot within the NHS. So, when I first got my job as a consultant, immediately I was challenged with this developing a service, right? So that was like the university of life for me. And literally everything leading up to this point, I think, had prepared me So it wasn't just the clinical bit about seeing patient. It was really, once I chose to be sort of an organizational doctor, developing a service, managing pathways and all of that, that was gold.
And that's why
I'm so grateful for that experience.
Exactly. 100%. That's why I don't feel like any experience is wasted. Yeah. And even if you might have had to pivot off onto another route that if I had directly gone onto dermatology, it would have been a shorter time scale. But the skills I have gained in medicine every day become valuable. Yeah. There is nothing that I have not done, apart from maybe I sometimes think about my genetics to BSc. Sometimes I feel like, why did I do that? But actually, once in a while, it becomes useful. But everything I have done has literally been useful in some way. So it's not wasted knowledge. It's just, you have to apply it differently. Yeah. So, yeah.
Did you feel confident starting Dr. Eve's Skin?
Not at all. No.
Why? Well, you're so good at it and so passionate about everything.
I wasn't. Listen, the first time someone came to see me, I was like almost shaking. Not because I don't know the medicine, but it's just like, okay, they've come to see me. I think when I first opened my clinic, I was actually in a surgery, not my own. I was in a room that I had rented in the surgery. So at least it looked professional. Yeah. But there was still so much like, oh my gosh, they're coming to see me. And they've paid. Yeah. Like, don't make a mistake. Not that I'm going to make a mistake anyway. Yeah. But there was definitely a lot of like, fear. Don't want to have.
We all have that as doctors because if, it's a lot of pressure. A lot of people don't know this, but it's a lot of pressure. Don't make a mistake. And mistake is so frowned on. It's almost like, which in other
you can make mistakes. You're not going to kill someone.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, if you listen to some of the entrepreneurs, like Steve Bartlett and things, they'll say they want people to make mistakes.
Yeah, not in medicine. No. You'll lose your license. You're finished.
It's not a thing. So that fear is there. Even when you're not at risk of that happen, you kind of carrying that with you all the time. Yeah. It's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. And it's why when you make a decision like starting your own business, you're taking even more risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now it's really on your head. Yeah. There isn't really an organization that's going to protect me. Yeah. It's my business. It's my name. So therefore, even though I would always do my best for a patient, I have to be even more checks and balances in place to make sure I don't do anything. I'm very personalized with my patients. Like they receive emails from me. There isn't anyone else emailing them. It's me. Even if it's admin, it's me. Yeah. So they know that they're really getting the true, experience from me. But there is fear there. But at the same time, I have to fight that fear feeling. It does protect you in a sense because it will stop you from doing something silly. Yeah. That fear does actually stop you from doing something silly. But at the same time, I have to, trust myself that I can actually do this thing. And if I can't, I hold my hands up and say I can't do that.
Exactly, yeah. And also kind of that feeling is of fear is, like you said, a bit of a really good check balance. Yeah. And the key is really to kind of channel it and make sure you are using it for your checks and balance and your safety and not let it paralyze you from making decisions. Because that can happen sometimes. You just can't make a decision and or then trying to push it under the carpet and then get overconfident and not know when to escalate if you need it. So starting Dr. Eve's Skin from when was it you opened it? Was it
like 2021?
2021. So that's 3 years and a bit now.
Yeah, so like technically it was 2020 that it was conceived. So before then I'd always known I wanted to do something, but it was conceived in 2020 because I had just had a baby. Yeah. But for some reason, after having a baby, you kind of feel like I can do everything. But you have a baby, but you still feel like you can do everything.
It is a big thing to have a baby. Yeah. So yes, if you've done that, then that makes sense.
I think that's why
I felt empowered to do it.
Honestly, I've spoken to so many other women who, for some reason, on maternity leave, they start something. Yeah. So I joined them, not intentionally, but I joined them. So after kind of helping some patients during, people who had come to me via other doctors just to give advice, I remember thinking, look, I need to do something about this. So technically it was birthed in 2020. I kind of launched it, but I told no one. So I launched it, but I was like, okay. And then people were kind of coming to me without doing any kind of advertising. And then I thought, look, I have to be serious about this. So I think there's even a post I had posted where I had posted the Aaliyah song, Try Again.
Yeah.
Because I was
Pick
like...
yourself up and try again, that song.
Literally, because my social media had just gone to nothing. And I had been doing this business but not talking about it.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to like put myself out there. So yeah, technically since 2020, but I kind of hit the ground running in 2021 and then just kind of taken.
How do you overcome fear? Because obviously as professionals, especially doctors, we in a way carry it. You really care about what the people you look after, and that in itself comes with a certain level of fear that you will fail them, that you will not do. You might human factor, do something. So how do you overcome fear and keep going and keep improving and keep building on your clinic?
I think you have to be honest with yourself, because I still fear things, and I definitely feared before starting this career, even like going into the diploma. I knew I wanted to do it, but there was still a fear. But I think you just have to look at it, but don't let it stop you, and just acknowledge it. That's probably what I want to say. Acknowledge the fear, but say, okay, so what we're going to do with it. But I don't think you can ignore it, because I think that you're just being in denial. You don't need to be in denial. Acknowledge that you're fearful. Why am I fearful? Okay, I had lots of conversations with my husband, but to be honest, I think I just needed to speak out loud. And I also kind of did need someone to believe that I could do it, even though I knew I could possibly do it. And I say possibly, but at the time I was like, can I really do this? But because he said, why not? In fact, actually, to be really clear, I'd started the business, and then I had gone and done some basic aesthetic training. And while I was in the training, one of the trainers was like, oh, she was really good. Like, do you want a job? She offered me a job local to where I am, in a big clinic, which is now kind of closed. But anyway, and it was a massive clinic. So she offered me a job, and I thought, oh, this is good. I'll walk into a job. I don't even have to set anything up myself. I'll just go and take it and like develop my skills there. Told my husband, and he was like, why do you want to work for someone else? And I'm thinking, me? Myself? Like, that's a big thing. Going from being employed to being the employer or, running your own thing is very difficult. But because he's planted the seed and it was already in me, I just said, well, you can do it. Once I did it, I was like, oh yeah, it's possible. But there was an element of wanting someone to believe in me, but also believing in myself. Because at the end of the day, let's say he decided he doesn't believe in me anymore. Now it's on me.
It's on you. Yeah, exactly. So, and are you going to get bigger with Dr. Eve's Care? Are you opening another clinic or?
Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. Where? Do you know where yet? Or is it an undisclosed location?
It's undisclosed at the moment, only because as soon as it's confirmed, there's all, literally deposits have been paid, but the signing on the line needs to happen. Then I will be advertising it on my social media. But even that is scary. And I actually had to ask my solicitor, because, there's loads of people in my ear. I do have lots of roles, lots of jobs, as I put it. And when you say you're going to do this, people are like, what? You're going to do that as well? Yeah. And you're like, yeah. Honestly, people have been making me think I'm mad. And I know why. Like, from a logistical point of view, I understand where they're coming from. Like, this is another thing to take on. But in my head, I'm like, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
There are ways to make it work. So I had to speak to my solicitor, who is a female, actually. And she's a mum, and she's successful at her business. So I asked her a question, am I making a mistake taking this on? And she said, no. If not, honestly, this has happened in the last few weeks. If not for her, I would honestly feel like I'm about to make a huge mistake. And I'm believing in myself that it's not a huge mistake. It's actually a really good chance to grow, and even where I am now, where my current office is now, it was an opportunity to grow. And the reason I moved to where I am now, where my office currently is because there was no space, and I couldn't work to my full capacity. I literally was mobile. I was here. They couldn't leave anything there. I couldn't put a laser device there because it's not my space. So I was forced to grow. And I remember I have a reel where, I would keep talking about reels, but I have a reel where you can you can see what the office looked like to start with and what it looks like now. Every time I stand there, I look around and I'm like, wow. oh my gosh, like I made this, like I did that. And you know, I have people that work with me now and this is all on me. Like how did this happen? But I am forcing myself to even grow. And an opportunity came that made so much sense that I am walking into it. Yeah. But yes, there's still fear there.
Today's episode of Beyond 9 to 5 is brought to you by HealthMary. Ladies, let me introduce you to HealthMary app, the ultimate girl power health platform built for women by women. Connect with trusted female health practitioners who understand your unique needs. From fitness and menopause coaching to skin and nutrition, expert consultations are just a tap away. HealthMary interviews and screens every single one of their practitioners, so you can know that they are the best in the business of looking after you. The app isn't just a directory for finding the best female specialists. The Reels feature gives you instant access to a wealth of qualified content posted on the app by the top-notch professionals on there. This is not social media type of content. This is like a digital health magazine in your hands and on the go. And the best part is that it's free to download and join. So what are you waiting for, girl? Download the app and unleash the girl power inside to enhance your health and well-being.
Do you have a faith? Are you spiritual? Or?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, I'm a Christian. Yeah. And when I say things like nothing was wasted or where I am, I honestly feel like I've been led to where I am. Again, coming back to the whole like fear thing, for me, I have fears. Everyone has fears, but I have more faith than I have fear. Yeah. So even though I am scared of making decisions, I trust God that He knows the best for me. He knows the plans He has for me, and they're good. I also know that, not that you can't fail as a Christian, but I know that if something happens, God will pick me up. So I'm not worried. Yeah. But yeah, I my faith is everything to me. It doesn't stop me from being able to interact with anyone or any, the people that work for me are not of the same faith as me, but it gives me the ability to have even more compassion for people. But definitely is one of the main things that drives me, knowing that, I have a plan, I have a purpose, I have a future. So when we talk about purpose, that's one of the reasons why I know I'm walking in my purpose, because I prayed about it and I have peace. That peace is in me. Yeah. So even when I'm like making a massive decision, I still have peace. Yeah. And if I didn't have peace, then I would know, okay, right, you need to make a decision or change what's happening now. Yeah.
Skincare and confidence, right? Obviously, if a lot of people feel non-confident because if they are not happy with the way they look. Yeah. And I know you're very particular about this, offering treatments and support, but also looking at the person's feelings and how they are managing all of that. Yeah, so tell me about that. Why? And,
well, in the NHS, especially in dermatology or in primary care, wherever I see them, people come with either their acne or their rosacea or their scarring or their hyperpigmentation. And you can see written all over them that this has really impacted on the way they see themselves. Some people already have mental health problems as a result of it. They might be depressed. Obviously, you have to check that it's not something more serious than that. But a lot of the time, the way, and it sometimes it sounds so superficial, but it really isn't. Somebody who's dealing with, acne, which is really severe, that they can't look at themselves in the mirror, that they feel like everyone is like looking at them, that really impacts on how you see yourself and how you see the world. Yeah. So it's really, really important for us to address that and not take it, lightly. Yeah. For example, you might manage the acne, but then they're left behind with hyperpigmentation. Now, technically, the NHS is not set up to deal with that. That's a cosmetic problem. So therefore, I'm like, okay, I can help you, not in my NHS setting, but I can help you additionally. Now, I won't solicit my services to them, but I know that if they were to see me with that, I would completely understand where they're coming from like that. I personally had, not the best skin before I started this. For many years, I didn't have the best skin. And I always tell the story that when I got married, my makeup artist said, your makeup would be so much better if your skin wasn't so rough.
Oh, God.
I remember thinking, wow. Okay.
All right then.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, that's not investing to tell someone. I mean, she told me this many years ago. Like on my preparing, but even still, like it stuck with me. And that's a makeup artist. How many things has other people said to someone, that hasn't, you get family and friends.
Oh yeah, what's that on your face?
Yeah. So
they must be stressed because some people think, if you've got like acne or pimple, there's
so many reasons for it, and I think it's just understanding that there is in medicine we talk about the biopsychosocial impact of disease. That can have an impact on them mentally, on them physically, even economically. It can have an impact on you. Some people will struggle to get a job because they look spotty like a teenager. But actually what they have is, acne that needs appropriate treatment or rosacea that makes them really, really red. But actually if we address it, they will feel more like themselves. They become confident. And whatever mental health problem usually, which is often related to the skin problem, is settled. So it really, I feel like medicine and, if you want to call it aesthetics, they can often go hand in hand. Now, I don't promote like a poor self-image. I certainly would always screen patients for body dysmorphia. So if I feel that someone is kind of shopping from one clinic to another, or they have a warped self-image, then we kind of have to address that. And I won't add to that. But then, we're prepared to see various different types of skin problems within dermatology, within, private sector, and manage them appropriately. And I think people often appreciate my honesty because I explain to them, okay, you've come about your hyperpigmentation or your scarring, but actually you have active acne. Let's get the acne under control, then we can address the other things. And it's really nice to see them like blossom. And honestly, they walk in like floating.
Yeah, like, you can tell.
You can see. And it feels nice to be part of that.
Yeah. I mean, that must be so rewarding. Right. And again, it's about the perks of the job when you are in healthcare. Is that those moments, isn't it? They're really, really, and they're moments you can't really write down or explain to anybody else. You just kind of carry it. And that just feels
I often
good.
sometimes, now, when you have a private business, people can actually leave you feedback. But I often wished more that in the NHS, people would give feedback to their doctors, especially positive feedback. Because often when you're really happy with how you've, the experience you've had with your GP or with your doctor, giving that verbal feedback, it really feeds them, gives them the drive to go back to work, It's lovely when patients go to me, oh my God, doctor, I'm so glad you're here. You understand my problem or you've managed your issue before. That really is a good driver to encourage them to continue doing what they're doing. And also any negative feedback that can be constructive is also helpful too. I always go back and look at what could I have done better. But it's that feeling inside, it trumps anything.
It does, 100%. You also mentor. Right, tell me about that. And I say this because I think it's really important, even, within this podcast, to talk about how we offer, transcribe our passion as well into purpose and other things we offer outside what we do within our careers or even beyond 9 to 5. So mentoring is really important. It's one of the really, is a really important part of giving back, I feel, right? So tell me how what do you do?
So kind of mentoring, I kind of fell into it. So as soon as I finished medical school and I was working as a doctor, lots of people, their parents, would approach me, Dr. Yvonne, can you come and speak to my daughter or son about going to medical school? And, obviously I always oblige, especially at church, you're cornered. So you have to kind of say something.
Doctor in the church.
Exactly. But I don't mind it. I love being able to give that. And I'll go back to something that when I was applying for medical school, so I was still at college. One of the things I wrote in my personal statement was about the fact that I wanted to be an example because I knew where I was coming from. So I come from South London, from a single parent home where, you don't have many role models around you. There's no one in my family that's a doctor before. And I wanted to have an impact. So when I got in, I was serious about that. You understand? So I got other people who benefited me in some way. And I wanted to be able to do that. So when I had an opportunity to, speak to a young person or do a session, so in my church, I do head one of the groups for young people who are at university or doing apprenticeships and encourage them about, the directions and they can go into and networking and the rest and developing themselves professionally. but I also wanted to be able to help people to get into medical school that may not have, there's no nepotism in their family.
Yeah.
Let me be your auntie. Let me be your uncle. Let me give you some advice. So we'd sit down and we would do interview training, and somehow I have this 100% record of getting them into Oxbridge. Don't know how. I never got to Oxbridge, but somehow they did. But then also now I am mentoring some young people who are making decisions about college and where they want to. They're not necessarily wanting to be doctors, which is fine, but I want them to achieve their best, their potential. And yes, the majority of the people that I do mentor are from underprivileged backgrounds, but that's because often they just don't have anyone else to go to. But I'm always open to being able to help any young person, anyone that looks like they're looking for help, because I didn't have it. And I feel like if I have something to give, I will do that. Yeah. So if somebody wants to come and shadow me, I even had a colleague 2 weeks ago come to my surgery to shadow me. She reached out to me and said, "Oh, can I come and see what you do?" She was shocked. She even told my colleagues, she was shocked I responded. And I find that really weird. Why would I not respond?
Would you not respond?
Yeah, because I feel like I can do that. It's not a big deal. It doesn't take much off me. I want to come and watch what I do and how I do it. I'm happy to have that. Have you there.
I mean, this is the ordinariness of a lot of the guests on this podcast. Well, I'm just next door. I can do it. And what you do is quiet, but it's powerful. Okay. Do you see what I mean? I think because, what people or anybody will never be able to do is to calculate how much of a difference that made to, say, a young person who had that conversation with you, and then who went on to further their education or be something different. And I always say that you can't be what you don't see.
Exactly.
So I feel that we all have a responsibility to show up, to be, so that people, all the young ones around us and people around us will see, so that they can be.
Absolutely.
How am I rhyming this?
No, I believe you. I completely agree with that. And I that ethos really hits home with me.
Yeah.
I had a young person who came to me at church and said, "Oh, you came and gave us a talk a few years ago about, what you do. And now I'm at medical school." And I'm like,
oh, well, there you go.
And the irony is I didn't even remember them.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter.
But somehow I had made some kind of impact. And, it honestly just makes me feel like, yes, I was supposed to do this job. Yeah. I was supposed to be here. I was supposed to, have that kind of influence in someone. So again, it just kind of adds to the fact that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, especially if others are benefiting.
Do you think that when it comes to purpose, that we can create our own purpose?
Well, I think it's a big, scary question.
It is.
Yeah, and I think that's what scares everyone. Like if you ask a 16-year-old or even an 18 or 21-year-old, what's your purpose? You get big eyes. Like, what does that mean? Yeah. But, things change so often in your life. When you become a mum, your purpose can pivot, can change. And you don't have to be a mum, but, things happen in life that might make you review what the situation is. And I do think, you kind of have to sit down and ask a smaller question rather than big question, because it will throw you off. And also, although I am walking in my purpose is not complete.
No, exactly. It's evolving.
Exactly.
You're adding on to it.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Part of my purpose is to be a mum to my 2 daughters and to also be an example to them. Yeah. So my daughter was asking me yesterday why I don't work at her school, because one of her friends' mums works at the school. Yeah. I said, "Emanuela, what is my job?" And she said, "Oh, you look after people." I said, "Yes, I'm a doctor. So I don't work in your school, but I do other things outside." Yeah. And I'm just getting her to understand that mummy is walking in her purpose. Yeah. Although I'm not at your school and you'd love me to be there, it doesn't mean that, I have a different purpose. Yeah. And I think it's important for us, especially when we know what we're trying to achieve, for those around us, our children, to be able to see that and understand that, because when they come to their own decisions about their purpose, they'll be a bit more clear in making those decisions.
Exactly. And experiment with that purpose. As long as it comes from a good place and a kind place, just experiment. So, and if you sit still and do nothing and ask no questions, and you're not even asking yourself the question, what is my purpose? So my daughter is 18 and we had a very similar conversation and she didn't know. She was like, yeah. And I said to her, do you know what? The fact that you're asking this is enough now, right? Yeah. So just keep it going. Yeah. Keep it churning in the background there. It will come to you. Mm-hmm. And she's doing law. She's studying law now, and but she does know that listening to people, she can literally sit there and absorb her whole friendship group. She's just there absorbing all of their emotions and things like that. And I said to her, not everybody can do that. Yeah. So in a way, that's your talent. That's something you can do, and you weren't taught it, so it came with you. So perhaps let's start with that. Yeah. And that could be your purpose. Exactly. To be able to, help people in that way as well. Yeah, and I think that's it. Again, I keep saying it, but that's why no experience is wasted. So I joke about the fact that I did this BSc, so intercalated degree in genetics, human genetics, and it was in a lab. So you go from dermatologist to genetics. Oh, don't mind me. Like, honestly, you don't understand. It's so hard, guys. In case you don't know, like, this is like. I was kind of not. I don't want to say I was following the crowd, but at medical school, it was done. Let everyone done an additional BSc. Yeah. So I decided. I actually went there with the intention on like this open day of doing some kind of human. I want to call it. I've forgotten the word, but like going out to help people who are in resource poor countries is a 1-year degree. Volunteering. Yeah, it wasn't volunteering. It was a degree, but I forget the name of it now. But when I was there, the crowd was too much. And then there was this lady by herself on a table. Human genetics. Oh, that's interesting. Right. This lady talked me into the degree. She honestly talked me into it. And I honestly don't know how I found myself there. So somehow I ended up in a lab doing genetics, doing PCR and all sorts. And I remember thinking, I hate the lab. I hate it. This is not me. They don't talk to anyone. People just seem really bored. But the only thing that came out of that year, in my opinion, apart from the degree, was, I joined the choir. I joined some, the ACS. I joined a few groups. But it was so like, not me. You know what came out of it is that you understood what you didn't like. And that's what I was about to say. Exactly. Do you know, that thing is as important as knowing what you like. Yes, exactly. Because you can cross things out and say, right, I'm not going that way because this is not me. And actually it's good that I know that that's not me. So I would never pursue any kind of lab-based career. I am not. That's not me. Exactly. Understanding what you don't like is just as important, isn't it? Yvonne, every time... Sorry, my microphone, I'm just going to reach for this. At the end of every episode, and I guess that alludes to the fact that we're concluding now, I ask our guests to leave a note, an affirmation, advice, or anything for the next guest. And you don't know who this is. And guys, if you want to know who has left each of the advice on the show, go on to beyond9to5pod.com and you'll see it on the website, because there's a list of our really clever guests who have left advice for each other. I feel like this is like, I don't know, passing the parcel kind of thing. So let's see whether this makes any sense. Okay. Choose the job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. 100%. Yeah? 100%. It honestly feels like I'm not working. Yeah. Apart from admin, it honestly doesn't feel like I'm working. Yeah. Like it feels... So I have a very full week. And when I run my clinic or when I work in derm, even where I work in primary care, I honestly don't feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm having fun. Yeah. So I would 100% agree with that. Same. Yeah. Same. When you're doing something you're passionate about. I remember, handling a huge epilepsy service with all of the stress. It was stressful, don't get me wrong, but stressful mainly because of all the things that it was quite, when you're resource poor, basically, it's really challenging, but loved it. And I'd gone on to sort of layer on because I just love it.
Yeah.
I love podcasting, apparently.
Yeah, you're good
Because
at
we've
it.
been working so hard this week, Nikki, haven't we? But for some reason, it just feels
Natural.
like a breeze.
Yeah, you're very good at it.
And thank you so much for coming along today. I told you, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you, Yvonne, for coming along. I really appreciate it. And if you follow, subscribe, share, like, we can make more of these episodes, and we can bring these inspiring stories and journeys to more people, especially women and young women who need to hear them. So please look at the link below. You'll find the link to Dr. Eve Skin's Instagram handle. Please have a look. You will not be disappointed. I promise you that. So, and on that note, you know how we end. Keep your purpose front and center and your passion burning brightly. Thank you.